Hello. Wanted to talk a little bit about the upcoming debate between Cy Ten Bruggencate and Matthew Dillahunty. And I just wanted to mention a few things that I hope are mentioned by Matt Dillahunty, things that are normally neglected, things that are normally left out. And so the first one is Romans 1, which always gets brought up, which is the verse that they use, presuppositionalists use, to justify the idea that everyone believes already what they believe. And let me just read some of it real quick with the context that they leave out. So, starting at verse 7 in the King James, to all that be in Rome, beloved of God, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from God our Father, the Lord Jesus Christ. I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. That's verse 7 and 8. So it's clear that he's talking to the Church of Rome, the early Church of Rome. He's not just talking to anyone. He's talking to these specific people. Let me skip down and pick it up from where verse 20. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. Being that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were they thankful, nor became vain in their imagination, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. What's important to notice is that Paul is speaking in the past tense. He's saying they knew God, they glorified God, they were not thankful, they became vain. That's all from verse 21. It's clear he's talking about something that had already happened. He's talking about a specific group of Roman Christians who, in Christian terminology, became backslidden. They went back to their well, it'll say later, but they went back to their pagan ways. And this is always ignored, but it's important. So, verse 23, and they changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through their lusts of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. They changed the truth of God to a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. And it goes on, he gave them up to vile affections. But notice over and over again the past tense verbs. He gave them up. They changed the truth. He's clearly talking about a specific, what people are missing is the historical context here, is that the people before Christianity came to the scene, these Romans would have been pagan worshippers of multiple gods. They would have had multiple deities. And so some of them became Christians when the earliest Christians went to witness to them. And after Paul left, what it sounds like is they returned to paganism. So they were pagans as children, and then they became Christians for a short time, and then they went back to in Paul's terminology, they went back to their sin, basically. That is very, very different from trying to claim that everyone on earth, past, present, and future, all knows God or something. That's just not what this verse is saying. So if we're going to pay attention to the important context, there it is. And I think that should be brought up in this debate. Another thing that's always missed, well, not missed by everyone. Some of you know Ozymandias Ramses, the user that goes by that name on YouTube. He talked about certainty, and it's something I've been talking about for a long time, and there are others that have focused on it too, but it needs to be hit really hard, because if there's a silver bullet, there's a few for Cy and his precept argument, or whatever. It's not really an argument, but I guess they call it that. Certainty doesn't matter, And Ozzy described why it doesn't matter. You can be certain and still be wrong. You can be uncertain and still be right. So the idea of being certain and having that be this big important thing is just not the case. It's more of a distraction than anything else. Another thing is that they talk about they use the justified true belief definition of knowledge. So they say for something to be knowledge, it has to be both justified and true. That's what JTB, justified true belief, entails. So what they then go on to do is focus heavily on, well, how do you know what's true? What's true? What's truth in your worldview? That's a question he likes to use. So they focus all their time on truth, and they never come back to what's justification. What makes something qualify as being justified rather than unjustified? Because the problem they run into then is that they are making a bunch of faith-based claims. And do faith-based claims qualify as justification for anything? And if they qualify for the Christian, do they also qualify for anyone else? If I want to make a faith-based claim, does that qualify as justification? So they raise that point about justified true belief, and then they just immediately drop it and move on to what's truth in your worldview, and then they go down that whole rabbit hole for as long as they can. And the whole strategy for them is really just to stall as long as possible and not to answer any substantive questions. So hopefully these things will at least be mentioned. Justified true belief. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think there was maybe one other thing I wanted to say, but that's it for now. Thanks a lot.